to sign out, so people looking for it.
All right, you got it. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It is time for art. I want to say hello to all of our beautiful artists and welcome anybody who is new to Time for Art. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm your host, Hershey Petty. And today, if you look at your calendars that we included in our kits, today you'll see today is March 23rd. It's a drawing day. So all you're going to really need today is your art journal. You're going to need your favorite pencil, an eraser, and then even though it's not a drawing day, we're not going to paint today, but we will use a little bit of paint today to show some variations in tone and whatnot, because today our resident artist, Allison, has an incredible lesson planned for us today about lighting and shading and whatnot, something that is going to be useful to everybody in the community. So buckle up. It's going to be a good time. Also, don't forget an eraser. That's always a good one when we're doing this kind of stuff. If you guys are new, or if you're with us and you haven't done it yet, we encourage everyone to not just follow us here on Facebook so you can see our live streams, but also check out our subscriber group. It's where all of our artists post their works and whatnot. You can see what everybody's doing and how much fun we're all having. It's a really great time. Another place to have a good time is right here in the comment section. So say hello to me, say hello to Allison, say hello to our other artists, whatever you want to do. But that's the only way that we know you're there. So if you want to interact with us, please say hey. All these lessons, real quick, just to remind everybody, are supposed to be fun. Take them at your own time. You don't need to speed up to catch up or do anything like that or stress about it. Have fun. These videos are available to everybody the second they're done, either here on our Facebook or on our YouTube page. You can go back and rewatch this. You can rewatch another one from last week that maybe you really enjoyed but didn't finish. So take your time. Do it at your schedule. This is supposed to be relaxing and a good time, time for art. But they're not just fun, they're for everyone. So if you guys can think of somebody right now who might really enjoy taking some time for art, go ahead and click on the share button right now on your Facebook page and send it to just one random person. And you never know, maybe they really needed this little nudge to make some time for themselves. It's time for art. So thank you guys for that. And of course, if you love what we're doing like we do, you guys can become a subscriber, and that's where we send you a box every month that has everything you're going to need in it to make 3 masterpieces, 3 pieces that you can be absolutely proud of. We send you the brushes, we send you the canvases, we send you the vellum templates. We have fun in these live streams. So whatever level of engagement you're prepared for, like we've got it all. So make sure you check us out at timeforartsubscriptions.com. That's all right. Let's say hey now to our resident artist, Allison, who is this class is going to be so great. Lights and shadows. So let's say hi to Allison Crary. Hi, Allison.
Hi, Hershey. And before we go any further, I'd like to discuss our template challenge winner.
Yeah, who is it?
It is Cheryl Pasilio. And
hey, Cheryl,
I can hear this out. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go.
Exciting.
And among many beautiful things Cheryl has painted this month and others, this is her template. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Big cough, big sneeze, people. All right. And it's got these really playfully painted macarons and this really beautiful just exposed brushstroke, really joyous background. And let's take a look at this hand. There have been some other good hands. If anyone wants to check out Ruth's hand on with the ice cream sandwich. And Melinda,
before we pass here, I want to say I think the lighting and shading is really great on those hands.
Unbelievable. And hands might be the hardest part of anatomy to draw. Just they can do too many things and twist in too many directions. And this is just really exceptional. There's a lot of really nice detail work on the nails. You can see like the touch points on the macaron. There's a consistent texture through the hand that's consistent with the stroke work through the whole piece, and it's just really, really lovely. And we got a little bit nervous when we had sort of an abstract idea for the template challenge this week, and turns out everybody ran with it. It was so great. So
Awesome.
I cannot be more excited.
Hands up.
Cheryl, if you could share with Hershey an email you'd like us to send your Starbucks card to, we couldn't be more excited to have you get to look at your work and have you win this month. So thank you very, very much.
Congrats. And also the honorable mention to Ruth.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
She wrote in the comment section right now, God bless you, Allison, when you said she did.
I'm just still a little jelly that you and Ruth got to hang out, and I haven't seen her in so long.
Yep, and Ned.
And Ned. And
I dare I say it's the first of many.
First of many. And yeah, I need to come out and see you. We need to do that all over again.
They said the exact same thing.
I can't wait. All right. So, because on occasion we take requests here at Time for Art, we got a request to do light and shadow. And so this doesn't necessarily have a whole lot to do with our theme this month, but not everything always does. And so I got out some images that they're not the exact same ones I learned from, but they're similar. And we're just going to kind of talk about it. And I have divided my journal into quadrants, so this can be all on one page. So if you want to do that, and then because our Time for Art pencils are just number 2 pencils, but good ones, and we really like them, but they don't have a very large range to get the darkest darks and the lightest lights. So we're going to go ahead and do some painting. And Hershey and I were kind of talking about, is it really a paint day? This is more of a draw day, but we're going to use paint as a medium. So what I'd like everybody to do is get out your palettes, do a nice generous drop of blue and an equally generous drop of red. And I think I'm going to paint today with my medium brush. It's not my favorite brush usually, but I think it's going to work out really well for this. And our dark is going to be this deep violet that this makes. That's going to be our darkest dark. It's kind of a Barney purple. Hey, I liked Barney, and it was kind of past, like, Sean watched Barney, and I liked watching it with Sean. It was more age appropriate.
You know, I remember not being into Barney. I think I was a little bit. But that was an age thing. I think I was like, that's for kids.
Well, what I'm going with is I should have aged out of Barney and still liked it. Anyway, so we're gonna take some of this and put some in here, bigger. I don't know, maybe 2 peas worth. I was at the dermatologist today, and they measured serum in a pea.
No, they didn't.
They sure did. And I got super excited. I go, I'm measuring peas too. No.
How many wells of this purple we're looking at? What, probably 5 tones or no? That's on a portrait?
I'm going to start with 4, and this is going to be the one that we keep. Yeah. That we keep kind of giving back to. And then I'm going to put 1 pea's worth in each of these, and then we'll get mixing. And this is just going to be the color we use today. We could have used brown, but I didn't feel like it.
That's a tough one. That's tougher than this one.
Well, just it felt kind of.
Yeah, not for confections.
Not for confections. Exactly, Hershey Putty. So we're gonna have kind of 3 tones going on here. Four if you count the original.
Which I do.
And if I look at these 3 tones, I like them, but I want one that's also a little bit darker than this. So we're gonna go to the other side to a well in this direction.
Okay.
Nice, generous drop in there. A touch of white, and that'll be kind of our darkest tint, so to speak.
So what we're looking for then are 4 tones of this purple that go progressively lighter and lighter and lighter.
Correct. And this one wasn't dark enough for the first of that tone. So now we just made one right here.
And these are going to mock, like with our pencils, if we were to make a lighter, we needed a light shade or a darker shade. So
Exactly. Yep. We're just going to do it with paint. And the reason we're doing it with paint is because our pencils are too limited. Our pencil does not get this dark. And then there's even light pencils that at their, like, they're very hard pencils. And if you press very hard, they still stay very light. So they're good for light tones. We don't send you those. There might be a time we do, or sell them in the store. We don't right now. So this is how we're going to do it. And there's nothing wrong with getting out our paints and mixing some colors.
It's the fun. That's so much fun for me. I don't know.
Figuring some of this stuff out. Okay, so I'm going to start in our first quadrant right here. And simple enough, we're going to put in our horizon line, which is what our sphere is going to sit on. And then we're going to draw a circle. That is our sphere.
And it's a little bit in front of the horizon because it's sitting on the horizon. Yeah.
Definitely. Sure is.
Yeah.
And so when I draw a circle, it doesn't always start looking like a circle. And then I kind of figure out what's missing. So I need to get wider on this side. Just like that. Square up our horizon line. Just like that. Kind of have to pick a line after a while.
Yeah, I draw a bunch of circles and then I erase until I think it's a circle.
And there are some people that will tell you try and not do that. And I have been drawing for a long time and still do that. My remedy to that is draw as many lines as you want, but then erase the ones you don't need.
Yeah.
All right, so there's our circle. Good enough. And the first thing, I'm actually going to go with our highlight to start first. I'm going to just familiarize everybody with these phrases. And it's kind of sort of universal in representational art. Our representational art means it represents something else. Mm-hmm. And we're painting something to represent a sphere. So this is representational art. And light source is always something that we talk about. Find the light. Sometimes there's more than one light source. This is simplify things, very directional light. So we're going to stick with that. The highlight is going to be your lightest point on your form. And it can be other places, but it's always going to be your lightest light. Midtone, I was not taught midtone. I was taught halftone, but it's the same thing. And it's in between your light and your darks, in between your highlight and your shadows. Your core shadow, I guess, can sometimes also be called form shadow. I usually just say your darkest points of your shadow because that's what we're talking about. And if you can see it here, it's not the greatest, but it's going to be the darkest part of your shadow, okay? Before it gets a little bit lighter again, because there's a little bit of light that comes, in this case, onto the tabletop and reflects back up on the sphere. And then in this case, the cast shadow is what the form is casting onto the surface. So the cast shadow is like the shadow, like if you're walking on the street and you see your figure in front of you because the sun's behind you, you've cast that shadow onto the street.
So there's a shadow that is created on the sphere on the back side, and that's different. It'll be a different tone from the than the shadow it casts.
It can be a different tone. It can be the same tone theoretically, but we're going to call them different shadows.
Okay, cool. All right.
Okay, if that makes sense. And then, just like you have some reflected light that reflected up from the tabletop onto the sphere, we also get some reflection from the sphere onto the tabletop. And that's what this reflection is.
Wow. This is way more complicated.
Right? We're having fun. Okay. And here's the thing. This is for fun. We're going to go through this again. This is the kind of thing like they test you for in college, and then they like give you C's and D's if you don't get it and stuff like that. Not our brand, right?
Right. That's not who we are.
We're here to have a good time. It's not hard. It's just we're going to do something like this, and then we're going to revisit it maybe in a few months. And if you paint with us and you subscribe and you like to hang with us, this stuff is just going to start coming to you, and it's going to come out in your work, and it's going to be really helpful. So that's the goal. All right. I'm going to put also a big thing of white in the middle, so we have it. And the first thing we're going to do is paint in our background. And why are we going to do that? Hershey, why do we paint in our background first?
We're going to paint from the back to the front.
That is the first good reason. The second good reason is color and value. So a value is an object's lightness or darkness, and you can actually get it to precision accuracy. You can hit the value like it's on the periodic table of elements. It actually is that specific. And so to figure out the correct values, everything's relative, where this could look very dark, maybe in certain instances, if it's up against white, or it could look very light if it's up against something very dark. So we want to get some of our correct values in first so that that can influence the rest of our painting relatively. And so of the colors we've mixed, I'm going to go ahead and paint in this wall tone as our lightest hit right here. And I'm just going to paint it in. And the reason we're doing that is it's because it's going to be lighter than the highlight, because obviously the highlight right here is lighter than the background. Can everybody see that?
Yes. We're using, okay, got you.
That's what I'm using. And because it's not especially opaque yet and you can see through it, it's going to be almost exactly the right tone because we're getting it in.
Because this is time for art, and there's something we do here. It's color mixing.
It's color mixing. We make sure you know that before you leave. Okay, and so I'm deciding now if the next tone is this tone or this one for the tabletop, and I actually think it's this one.
The
tabletop.
You think it's the second to darkest?
Yeah, I think it's going to be this one. And when we get these in, we'll start painting in our sphere. And again, the reason we're making these small is because we're going to do a few more. And it's about the lesson. It's kind of about the conversation, more so than it is about finishing a drawing or painting today.
I've tackled this, the lighting and shadowing issue on my own before without you, Allison, like on a Saturday morning. And
yeah,
man, am I excited.
Yeah, right? Good stuff.
Really good.
So the next thing I'm going to do, just to make things kind of easy here, is this middle tone. I'm going to make that the whole sphere for now. And then we'll talk about.
I will say, do you remember? Oh, sorry, Alice. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you remember how I told you I had an issue doing portraits because I always made the skin tones too dark? They get getting darker and darker and darker.
Yeah.
I think that if anybody else is having that issue out there, I think that problem was because I didn't have a background to. I think I started with the skin, and so I didn't understand that a halftone was a halftone. And I made it too dark at the jump. So
yeah, and that's part of understanding this, but it's also part of like, it's good that you did that to know that that was tricky and that you can revisit. So there. Okay, so we have in our sphere, and so we know the highlight not only because they said so, but because we can see it on the sphere. It's the lightest point. If the highlight is here, okay, and the shadow is here, it's not directly underneath, it's offset a little bit towards the back. where would the light source be? And the answer is on the page.
The light source is, yeah, kind of like over my shoulder a little bit. Looking
it's like
at
right here. So if the light is here, it's hitting the sphere right here. It's hitting this much of the sphere like this. Then it's going to get to its darkest dark. Okay. And then we're going to get some, all of this is in shadow, but we're going to get some light that reflects up. So we're going to put in our halftone, and I'm actually just going to start with what our background tone was. And I'm just going to kind of get this going. So this is the light area. All of this is in light. Kind of comes down. Around like this.
The glare is making it to where it all kind of looks like one color. Let me see. So the same tone that we use for the background, we're now using as the halftone on your painting. Your painting is the one.
Exactly. You're exactly right. It's the midtone halftone area.
All righty.
So the halftone is everything in between the dark and the light, or the midtone. I was taught halftone, but obviously midtone applies. And then since it's going to get a little lighter, we're just going to take some of our white and kind of hit our highlight. And kind of work that out from there. I'm just taking a little bit of paint off my brush. All right. Then
hold on, 1 second. Ruth, you asked us to say something again in the comments. Which part were you thinking that you want to hear again?
What do you mean?
She just wrote, can you please say that again? And I don't know when she wrote.
I see. Huh? So our highlight's going to be right here.
Okay.
And this whole area from our highlight to our shadow is considered midtone or halftone. I say halftone. How I was taught. But this is kind of the lit part of the sphere. So it's going to be the lightest area, with the absolute lightest part being the highlight. And then I'm going to reach for this dark that we mixed up right here and put in sort of the dark side of the moon. Mm-hmm. Our darkest area, which comes around like this. Just like that. And I'm just going to kind of let the paint sort of stick to the page. Before I blend. If anyone has that with mascara, sometimes you open a new mascara, it's too new. You want it to dry out like a little bit. It's kind of how I'm going to do this transition right here. I sort of let it adhere to the page. And then I'm going to kind of blur this edge. Just like using just the top fibers. All right. Then for our core shadow, okay, that's going to come along right here. So our halftone's everything in between. Mm-hmm. I'm going to reach back for this and really just hit this area as our darkest dark.
When you say you're going to reach back for this, you're reaching for the darkest dark.
I'm reaching for not the one that we started with, the one that we just dropped a little bit of white into.
Okay.
And then we might hit it again at the end with our absolute darkest dark. But what I'm saying is the darkest dark is our core shadow is the darkest dark that's going to occur on the sphere.
Okay.
Just like that. That's the core shadow. And then I'm also going to use that tone actually for our cast shadow. So our cast shadow underneath just sits right underneath the sphere and comes around this way.
And did you use the clean white brush to do that mixing? Or
I just use the brush I have, but
okay.
use a clean brush is a good idea. If you want to use that. I'm just going to kind of blur some of those edges. Just like that. I'm just going to hold this up so everybody can see it.
Yeah, there you go. There we go. Thank you.
And then, because acrylic paint dries a little bit differently than when you're putting it down, I'm actually going to reach for our absolute darkest dark, what we started with. And I'm just going to apply that into our core shadow. And then into the darkest parts of our cast shadow, which is around here and around here.
All right, hold on real quick. Let's see. Allison again. Okay, as she said, Allison will explain it again. I can't remember where we were. Sorry, that's what Ruth said in the comments.
Okay, I think hopefully we would have gotten, because I think we've gone over this once more. But always tell us.
Yes, thank you.
For that, Ruth. Just like that. And then I am going to wash my brush out again and then hit the highlight one more time. And that's our sphere.
There it is, a little down.
And if you think we skipped out on the reflected light and the reflection, we actually didn't. We just left that the slightly lighter tone than our core shadow and the dark parts of our cast shadow. Just like that.
Really cool.
And then I just take this time if I need to kind of clean up my drawing. Painting.
And so real fast, so like, you know, on a regular, we're going to do it at the end. I think you said, because not everything that you look at is going to have the shadows labeled for you.
Right. We're going to get there.
Okay.
Don't worry. That's the point. Okay. That's why we're not spending too long on any one of these. All right. Just like that. Okay. And then if you want to clean up your painting, clean up your painting. Next, we have a cylinder and a cone and a background and a foreground.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go ahead.
Those terms that you just taught us, do those appear on pretty much every drawing, like, or every paint? Like,
yes, this is really careful directional light.
Okay.
Okay. And so there's one light source, it's high contrast. These make it easy. The stuff we do is a lot of times a little bit more complicated, but you can usually figure out where your light source is. You can usually figure out what your highlights, what your shadows are. And then if you're looking, figure out where your halftones are and everything in between. So that's my, let's go ahead and put in a cylinder. Like that. And a cone. Really, the only important thing here is that you kind of put the horizon line loosely where it falls on the cylinder. So this falls a little below half. Same thing here. In this instance, Hershey, our dark tone, switching to my smaller brush for this, is our background.
Oh, yeah.
When you mixed, go ahead and put that in here. That.
This is so like using the a little bit lighter tone at the bottom to create that reflection from the table is so cool. It really makes everything pop.
Right? And you're like, oh, there is a method to the, like, you know, sometimes the pieces come together and you can see it. All right. Same thing here. You know how off the horizon line was that I drew? Happens.
Very cool.
We're gonna work on both of these together. And then for the last one, actually, we can paint one in, but I think it's more just kind of a fact. Like we're gonna try and pick it apart.
Okay.
I don't know that we need to replicate it. So these might be the only two we end up painting. And then a lighter tone, I think we'll put what we used, the tone that we used for the background in our sphere. For the table.
This cone is going to be interesting to paint.
Right? Hershey and I were talking before this, and Hershey had never really made, if you can believe it, before we started, Hershey had never really made art before this.
Never. I avoided it at all costs.
Yeah. And so now that he's been learning it and doing it on the reg every week, twice a week, and then some, he was talking about how all of this is kind of exciting to learn now that you've already got started and you're in it and you want a little more.
Yeah. You find yourself going like really kind of going out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you're drawing, you're like, oh, I can't draw that. And then you try, attempt it in your art journal and you run into these problems, you're like, why didn't this work? What am I not seeing? And a lot of it is the lighting and the shadows, and reflective light is that's a really big one.
It's a big one, right? When you figure that one out. And so sometimes traditional art, they make you like learn all this before they let you do something fun. Not my way.
Yeah.
I think you lose a lot of people in the steps of this. So I like to say, let's get started. Let's paint. We'll talk about some of this stuff as we go. But then we'll get back to the basics sometimes too. And that it's all the more applicable. Okay. So these are actually a little bit lighter, the forms, than are the background. So I'm going to take our background color, just like this.
The table color, you mean?
The table color. Exactly. Okay. That's exactly it. And I'm going to add some white to it. And that's actually the color I'm going to kind of paint into both of these at this point.
I'm glad this lesson has changed the color of the background so that we can do a little bit different, same principles, different work.
No, I think this page is actually shaping up to be a really cool journal page.
Yeah, mine is for sure.
We're going to paint an icon. And Hershey, when you get a chance, take a look at these two and tell me the light source is coming from the same space on both of them.
Right.
Tell me where the light is coming from.
The light is coming from like right up to the top right of me. If I'm looking at it, it's like it's shining up above my right shoulder somehow, looking down at them.
Coming from like here, right? And this one to be like,
yep.
Yep, you're exactly right. So a good way to tell that, if you aren't Hershey and you're not just kind of getting it kind of intuitively at this point, is you look at the direction of the cast shadow, and you can kind of come back up from that and be like, all right, it's coming from the top right. So one way to do it, we didn't do it the first time, is we could actually put in the cast shadows first if we wanted to.
Oh.
So let's try that. I'm going to reach for the darkest tint we made, not the darkest dark, the darkest tint we made. And I'm just going to kind of paint in this shadow right here. It's their cast shadow. Same thing with the cone here.
You know who did a lot of really cool work with shadows was the name. What was that gentleman's name from last week? Thibault.
Wayne Thibault.
Yep.
And we promised everyone we'd learn how to say his name by today. Oopsies.
I think we're right.
All right, so I'm still kind of working on the shadow. It's darkest in the middle and kind of fades on the edges. So I'm going to take a little of the darkest dark and kind of establish that. And then let's work our way back from the core shadow on. So the core shadow here is identified, but it's going to be this darkest area around here. And then it's also over here.
Oh, yeah.
It's missing that coming from where it's coming from. So I'm going to start putting in my core shadow. This is the darkest dark of my shadow.
Oh, we got Kevin Crary. He wrote in, what a sweet guy. He wrote, wow, just wow. This is all so interesting. And I can't wait to try some of this light source work. Like,
I can't wait to do that with you, Kevin Crary.
Me too, brother.
And then over here, we're gonna get in some of our core shadow coming in this way. And then over here, it's just kind of, it's right along here. It's this kind of stripe right here. Then I just took some water and I'm just going to kind of feather that out to establish some of this halftone. On here, it's actually labeled halftone.
So that's interesting.
It's just how you were taught, you know. All of this is halftone in here. You can do it with maybe some of this. And through here. It's like anything. A lot of times we think we disagree and we're all talking about the same. Talking about the same thing. There's the halftone there. I'm just gonna take some water. Just kind of blur some of this. And this puts this area into reflected light, which is probably true. It's roughly the same color as some of the halftone, but because it's in shadow, it's not as dark. And that it highlights right here, so be sure to hit that highlight in a minute. Same thing here. Just like that. And then on both of these, I'm just going to hit my darks one more time. Because it always dries a little bit differently.
So is there any part of these shapes that you're leaving just regular, the white of the page, or is everything getting?
Everything's getting some paint. We are going to go in and hit our highlights in a minute. So I've reestablished our shadow. Our core shadow is kind of up in here. Just like that. Our core shadow is right here. On here, I'm actually, just because it dried a little funky, I'm gonna go back in with the darkest dark and just give it the background a second coat.
Smart idea.
Just because I'm not liking the noise that's kind of coming through.
Is it because it's a little too similar, or no? No, it's not.
It's because just when it dried a little bit more translucent.
Okay.
So here. Then we'll hit our highlights in a minute. And then we'll take the last 10 minutes to kind of talk about
Wednesday.
that and this other painting where we can kind of figure out
Oh, right.
are. And then the highlights. I'm going to go just for my white right now. Dig into that. Highlights are right here. Right here. Kind of along this edge, it's catching light. Just like that. Here, down here.
So obviously, if you're drawing a face or something, and you know, like there's multiple light sources, there's lots of different facets. These are pretty smooth shapes, that sort of thing. Do you always fill in the form with a layer of paint and then go darker or lighter from there?
I like to establish my darks and my lights and then work my way to the middle.
Okay.
That's the best answer I can give. And you can have really directional light with a face. You just have more going on.
Right.
And we'll get into that at some point too. Okay, so I just want, looks like I could get a little bit darker in my cast shadows. Just like this. And that's our example of directional light on 3 different simple forms.
Awesome.
All right, last but definitely not least, this is putting, I got kind of messy here. I'll have to wash off my screen protector, but yeah. So if we wanted to, and I'm not suggesting everybody does this, but we could kind of, for the sake of demonstration, kind of put, I'll have Hershey post this to the subscriber group.
We can all practice with that.
If anyone wants to dig into this.
Kevin Crary.
Kevin Crary definitely wants to, I know that. Besides Kevin. Who else?
Me, 100%. That looks like a challenge. There's still one light source there, yeah?
That's the thing. And so you can have one light source with a face too.
Yeah.
But, all right. So there we go. I'm going to fly through this, but it's basically nothing's labeled. Let's see if we can figure it out. Okay, I'm going to start with the background. Hershey, where do you think the light source is?
Almost directly overhead, just looks like maybe a just scotch to the right.
I would agree. It's coming like from, it's overhead, but it's definitely to the right because this is the direction we're getting our cast shadows in.
Yep.
So I'm going to say actually not directly overhead. I'm going to say overhead very much to the right because everything is, all the cast shadows are going very much to the left.
Yeah. Okay.
Nicely done though.
The cone threw me off because it doesn't, at the top, it doesn't provide too much of a shadow.
Right.
It gets narrower, so I thought that was maybe meant that it wasn't too far, but you're right. It is a little bit.
Look at the cast shadows. They're coming this way. So the light's very much to the top, but to the right. So maybe if we're looking at clocks, like 2 o'clock.
Okay.
And if this is the clock face. So I'm just putting in our background here. And I'm kind of, for the sake of this, going to fill in the bottom here very much the same. It gets a little bit lighter right here. But there you have it. Okay. Then, Hershey, let's start with the cube. How much light is the cube getting?
Almost like it's only getting reflective light, it looks like.
Ding, da ding, da ding, da ding. Hershey, that's exactly right.
Yes.
It's almost completely in shadow, but getting a little bit of light reflected from the cone. That's what that's called, the sphere, and the tabletop. So we're gonna go ahead and scratch that in as almost completely in shadow. Awesome. On the cone, where are we getting some core shadow?
Getting some core shadow on the left-hand side of it, all the way at the top and going down almost on one half of it altogether.
Couldn't be more right. There we go. On the cylinder, where are we getting some core shadow?
We're getting some core shadow on the bottom like third of the cylinder, and then on the top, which is, it's laying down, so it's this side, I guess.
Over here, and on this, where kind of the stopper, where it kind of ends.
Yeah.
That's what I'm calling that. And where are we getting our core shadow on the sphere?
That's a tricky guy there. You draw like an equator line, you're going to go south of the equator, but not all, because that's got a lot of reflective light on it too.
Could he do a better job?
I know, I'm an artist.
I don't think so. And this is really important because it's really, art is so visual. I was having this conversation with someone else not that long ago, that like it has so little to do with sort of dexterity, or like all that's important, but really it's all visual. And if you can figure that out, you're already there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and paint in the surface here. I'm gonna do it with this. That's the table. It gets lighter here. I'm going to paint in with kind of this medium tone the rest of our forms. We might go a little over 8 o'clock tonight, just because I think we're.
Thank you for the heads up.
Yeah, having a really good conversation, but I kind of want to keep going. We always want to tell you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we won't be quite as good. All right, so I'm gonna go back in and correctly actually place the core shadows, kind of the second coat.
Okay.
So it's kind of right here. It's right here. It's right here. All right, Hershey, let's talk about cast shadows now.
Okay.
Where are our cast shadows?
All over the place.
Oh,
The cast shadows for the cylinder and the cone are pretty obvious. They're right there to the lower left of the actual form.
let's get these in. Our cone that's almost completely in shadow is still casting a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
We see that.
The cylinder, the square, the
Mhm.
cube.
Did I call it cone?
Yep.
I mean cube.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, good thing you fixed it though. All right. And then, again, I'm just gonna hit our background one more time to clean it up. And it takes 2 coats to get that really opaque. On our cube, the darkest side is going to be right here. It's dark again down here.
It's darkest in that. What is
This
it?
up.
Yeah.
Is that a little bit easier to see?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Looks really good, Al.
Thank you.
It almost gives me, if you see this, it almost looks like those shapes are on the moon.
Well, that's awfully cool. When we started with our dark side of the moon reference.
Yeah.
All right. And then where are highlights, Hershey?
Highlights are where the light source is on the top, like above to the right.
So where on the cylinder?
On the cylinder, it's on starting at the stopper end on the body, going down it.
Like this?
Yep, right there.
This is kind of also in highlight too on the table. Let's get that in. Where on the cone?
Cone. I mean, the other half, the left half of the whole cone almost. Well, no, or sorry, yeah, the right half. Sorry, like maybe the right third.
Yep, perfect. Where on our cube? Not cube. Cube doesn't
Yeah,
have
the sphere's
Where
got
on
the top, the top right again, like if it's the northern west hemisphere, I would say.
I love it. Yep. And again, this is a thumbnail. We're
Yeah,
learning.
right.
And then I'm just gonna kind of hit this corner of the table is very much in highlight.
Yeah, right.
Right here is very much in highlight. And then where are some of our reflected lights? I'm gonna put those in kind of deliberately this time. I'm gonna use
Reflected lights are all over that cube.
yeah, so let's get some of that in. So there's
Mhm.
right here, right here, right here. We see that?
Yeah. Yeah, good job.
On the cylinder, there's some right here. It's too much, but right there. On the cone, it's along this edge. Right here.
There's some at the bottom of that. Oh, you got the cylinder one.
At the cylinder, and then there's a little bit on the sphere. Right like that. All right, so this is loose. This was more about the discussion, and I hope everybody learned something. There we go.
Thank you. Some takeaways for me, definitely like fill in with one color, then that way you're not over darkening a half tone when you don't need to be.
Start with a medium tone.
Yep.
We are going to see we're right at 8 o'clock. Perfect. We are going to be doing original paintings on Wednesday. Original paintings mean just that, paint something original. You don't have to do it on the extra canvas we provide. You can do it with any paint, any subject matter, anything. If you want to stick with confections, it's a fun way to go, but you certainly don't have to. I show my original painting from last week or last month, and then I do one for you in real time. That's kind of fun. And we share them, and it's important to make your own stuff, as important to make your own stuff as it is to learn from what we do. It's good to learn with these exercises and the paintings we do, but it's also good to, figure something out for your own. And so we'll see you then. And thank you so much for making art with us this week.
Bye, everybody. Another congratulations to Cheryl and Honorable Mention Ruth. You guys did great this month. We really appreciate it. See you on Wednesday, Allison.
Bye, Hershey.